This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hello and welcome to Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers Television, Grey Bruce. I am Denise Reid, and as many of you have known, since this is our 36th episode, I usually have my partner Fred Wallace with me, but he's unfortunately away again, so it's just me on my own and my script. So if you see me looking, don't worry about that. Just trying to keep myself on track. Coming up today's program, our feature partner video is the Women's Center Grey and Bruce, and like I said, it's our 36th episode, and it was the concept was Willard Vanderploeg and Stuart Reid wanted a way in order to get to the community on how we can live well, how we can give well in our community, whether that's through will planning, volunteering. We've had doctors, lawyers, financial advisors, insurance people, and so you know what? It's the way. Trying giving well and living well in our community. And if you want to know how you can give a legacy gift in your will, you can go to willpower.ca. That is an absolute great resource for learning what you can do with your will. Our host charity is Community House Grey Bruce Hospice, and as I mentioned last week, the hospice is having their big fundraiser, the Hike for Hospice, on May 24th at Harrison Park. gbhfoundation.com if you want to get more information. So my guest today is Christy Kelly. Thank you for coming, Christy.
Thank you.
And you're from IG Wealth.
Yes.
Am I correct there? So if you want to just give me a little background on yourself.
Okay.
and IG Wealth.
Okay. I've been with IG Wealth for almost 10 years, and I am a certified financial planner. I also have my Master Financial Advisor in Philanthropy designation, which is new to Canada. It's a new designation. I've worked with our local hospital foundation before IG Wealth as a donation development officer, and I am very passionate about helping people leave a legacy to the charities that mean the most to them. So
are you from Port Elgin, or do you just work in Port Elgin?
I work in Saugeen Shores, Port Elgin, Southampton,
Okay.
Owen Sound, and Thornbury. I'm a licensed advisor with Investors Group Financial Services. I'm insurance licensed as well.
Okay.
I do full financial planning, so comprehensive financial planning to make sure everything fits according to your wishes and according to your current lifestyle and cash flows, basically.
Right. Well, because when you mentioned the hospital foundation, so I'm not Bright Shores has been, and Willard Vanderploeg is with the Bright Shores. He's with all the hospital foundations. So I wondered whether it was because Saugeen Memorial was one of our sponsors from last week,
Yeah.
and so knowing that these are places where we can give our future givings, and that, and knowing that you mentioned that it's a new designate, like
The Master Financial Advisor in Philanthropy is new to Canada.
Okay.
I wrote mine 2022-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
the government says this is.
This is specializing, knowing all the tax planning and the estate planning ideas around how you can give a gift to charity throughout your lifetime or through your estate. So it's really dialed down on the tax impact and financial plan, lifestyle impact, and estate planning.
Which is, that's we've had guests before, and it gets quite complicated as far as I'm concerned. And sometimes, like I say,
I like
over
to simplify.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I think that most people would appreciate that.
Yes.
Right, when you simplify it, and so that you can. Most people can understand that. So we're talking like life insurance for philanthropy.
Yes.
So life insurance, let's go even just back a little further. Life insurance we need to get it first.
Yes, you need to apply. It's based on your health and your age, so whether or not the insurance company will need to approve you. They may approve you at standard health, or they may rate you based on your health conditions, but that's up to the insurance company. First you get approved, and then you can choose, who your beneficiary may be or the owner of the policy may be. So there's a few different options.
Yeah. So when do you think, I think we all start, life insurance, so I'm going to live forever. Or, when in wills, we talked about, most people are way too late in establishing their wills. When do you suggest, or is there a start time that you think would be best to look at life insurance policies?
Well, obviously it's cheaper when you're younger and healthier, so that's generally the place to start. I can say, definitely when you purchase your first home and you have that major mortgage to cover in case anything happens, you want to protect your family. So those are too early age times to get the policy, and even start as a child, having a coverage when you're a child, because as you get older, your health could change. Getting that coverage early helps the child actually convert that insurance policy when they're older into their own, without having to do some medical work up to a certain dollar amount. That's a possibility.
I would never have thought of, I was thinking when you have a child, but I wasn't thinking that when you have a child you may want to, do an insurance policy. I think, so when we talk about, and when I'm looking at my notes, permanent insurance, is that so that would be, well, explain what permanent insurance is.
So there's temporary, which is term insurance, which is to last a certain period of time. It's cheapest when you're younger, but also the shorter the term, the cheaper it is. But as it goes to renew, it can automatically renew. So if your insurance rating health changes, it can automatically read your guaranteed coverage, but it will be a lot more expensive the next renewal term. So say it's a 10-year, 20-year, or you pick a term, the next renewal period is always more expensive. So depending on how long you need it, try to get that term to start so it's cheaper for you in the long run.
So is that just, I think of, when I'm thinking temporary, I'm thinking car insurance, house insurance, or whatever. But you can get life insurance that's temporary or permanent.
Or permanent.
Okay.
So the temporary, once you're done with it, either you convert it to part of it to permanent, or you let it go and you don't need it anymore for whatever that specific reason was. So,
okay. So I would think when you're looking at it, like a permanent might be a little, I'm thinking, I don't know what's better, but because you don't then have to keep doing health checks or, or whatever, the
permanent is a fixed premium and it will always stay for your life. So the permanent is intended to last your lifetime. You can pay up a permanent policy in a shorter time period, a 5, 10, 15, 20 pay, and have it all paid up then, and then grow. It can also grow with a cash value, like an investment over time. So there's a death benefit portion, and then there's a cash value portion that grows. It's an alternative investment, basically. You can grow it like an investment and access that cash value during your lifetime.
Okay.
With possible tax implications that way, or leave it for an estate.
Yeah. So. Because some people are I've got my benefits from work. I've got my death benefit, or I've when I pass away I'm looked after, but I'm not sure if that's enough. I think that sometimes people need to have that extra life insurance. And so if somebody gets a life insurance policy and their beneficiary at one point is automatically the spouse probably, and then the daughter or the son or whatever. When do they like to change that over to, I think I'm going to give that to a charity? I think I want to do a little philanthropy here.
Life circumstances may change. You may change the whole policy or a percentage of the policy to charity. Say the mortgage is paid up and you don't need that extra, maybe you're retired, you don't need that income protection from the policy for your spouse and family. Kids are grown, different circumstances, life changes, life stages even. So at that point, you can change the beneficiary at any time, really.
Right.
And it's just a paperwork to change. It's simple. When I say it's individual owned and you change the beneficiary, then the tax benefits are to your estate. So it's not, you don't need those tax benefits during your lifetime. It's something you might have a high tax burden on the estate, whether it's a RSP or a RIF that's fully taxable to an estate, or a capital gain on the disposition of a second property, such as a cottage.
Yeah.
So there's some bigger tax implications at death. That's when you would change a beneficiary to have a charity possibly be one of the beneficiaries there.
Because then there would be, if you have it as a charity, then there's no taxes? Or
there's
if you
taxes,
give it-
but it offsets. It helps to equalize your estate. So the taxes still get paid by the estate, but the insurance goes outside of an estate. So it's outside of probate. It's not tied up in timelines of an estate, which can these days take a year and a half,
Yes.
depending on what's going on and
Yeah.
what the properties were held. So
Yeah.
it helps to offset that tax burden. And you can get the receipt for the estate from the charity. So it has to be a registered charity. I think we should point that out.
Yeah.
It must be a registered charity. So you have the 86,000 registered charities in Canada. It has to be one of those officially registered charities.
I'm looking at, because if you so choose to, let's say, give it to a minor sports or whatever, well, that'll be something they need to just be putting in their will, and then because they're not registered charities, possibly.
You won't get a tax receipt if it's not a registered
Okay.
charity.
I mean, you could still do that, but the whole idea sometimes is to get that. I've talked about it in lots of shows about the government in our life gets a lot of tax money, and so if there's any way that we can do it to help.
Yes. So I always say there's three beneficiaries of your estate. It could be your heirs, your children, or your spouse. It could be the CRA for taxes, or it could be a charity, and pick two, because most of us don't want to pay the CRA. So you can reduce or eliminate that tax burden by having that tax receipt.
Yeah, I've never heard of it that way, but that's exactly right. And with wills, most people really want to look after their family. I mean, let's face it, we all want to take care of our family, but when you look at maybe a 5% of your estate could go to a charity, and if you do it with like a life insurance policy, that's not depleting your estate.
Right, it's not depleting your assets now or your estate later. So it's a good way to, for someone to make a small premium and get a larger benefit to a charity later is ideal for someone who wants to be a philanthropist but can't afford to make that big donation.
Yeah, and that's what, we say any donation is good. However, if you're doing something like this, as far as, because it does increase in value, so like your life insurance, it might start off smaller, but if we live as long as we think we want to.
Over years, it could be.
Then it could be. So I just, we're almost done our first half, so I was going to make sure that you're watching Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers Television. Our charity host for today is Chapman House Grey Bruce Hospice. When we return after the video from the Women's Centre Grey and Bruce, we'll talk to Christy more about life insurance and philanthropy.
Hi, I'm Heather Sheldrick. I'm the Executive Director of the Women's Centre Grey Bruce. The Women's Centre Grey Bruce was founded in 1982 to be a safer place for women, children, and youth who are fleeing violence in the communities of Grey and Bruce counties. The Women's Centre operates 3 major programs and facilities that are all located here in Owen Sound. First one that most people are probably quite familiar with is the Violence Against Women Emergency Shelter, and that is for women, children, and youth who are fleeing abusive situations due to gender-based violence or intimate partner violence. We also operate what is known as second stage transitional housing, which is a 12-unit geared to income housing complex. And then our newest program is the Anti-Human Trafficking for Youth program, and it's an 8-bed, 24-staff supervised residential program for youth who have been or are at risk of being trafficked. Each year, more than 160 women and children receive emergency shelter services from the Women's Centre Grey Bruce. We receive over 1,300 crisis calls each year on our 24/7 crisis hotline. People usually go about donating to us by either phoning and making an appointment to drop off at our administrative offices, but they can certainly go on our website, and people can email donations@thewomenscentre.org. A message to the women and youth in the community, I say, you do not have to face this crisis alone. We are here for you. We are here to help, and support the community of Grey and Bruce.
Welcome back to Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers Television, Grey County. We just saw a video from the Women's Centre Grey and Bruce, and they're a local sponsor of the Willpower campaign and a partner in bringing Living Well and Giving Well to Grey Bruce. If you're looking for more details on how to give a legacy gift in your will and support a charity of your choice, please visit willpower.ca. I'm Denise Reid, and we have Christy back again to talk about life insurance and for philanthropy. There's two ways of designating your life insurance policy. Maybe we can go over that.
Absolutely. So you can be the owner of the policy and change your beneficiary to a charity, and that would make you the beneficiary could be revocable, which means you can change that beneficiary at any time. Say over your lifetime you change your preferred charity, then you can make that change. And that's why the tax receipt is not given until date of passing, because at any time during your life you can change the beneficiary.
Right, yeah.
So that helps with any large estate tax issues, such as large registered investments, RSP or RIF, or capital gains. It will help offset those
So
taxes.
that's if you're taking your life insurance, a life insurance policy, and just changing the beneficiary.
Yes.
Boom, that's that. Can be changed anytime.
Anytime.
No tax
Control. It's
until
the simplest
death.
way. It helps preserve an estate. It's most inexpensive. You're not touching your assets now or your estate later. It's really outside of probate, so you don't have any timeline. It's pretty quick. It doesn't allow anyone to contest your gift. So it's you can get recognition by the charity now for that future gift, or you can choose to stay anonymous.
Right.
So it's
So what's number two then?
Number two is changing the owner and beneficiary to be the charity. So if once the charity owns the policy and is the beneficiary, then that isn't irrevocable. You're locked in. That's the charity for the lifetime of the policy. So you may, if it's an existing policy, you may be able to transfer and get a fair market value tax receipt at the time of the transfer. So
Okay.
an actuary would determine that value.
Okay.
And then you would also, if you're continuing to make the premium payments, you will get tax receipts as
Yeah.
you
That's
pay.
what I was thinking about. So Denise Reid
Mm-hmm.
gives my life insurance policy to whomever. So they're the owner, they're the beneficiary, but I still make payments
You
on
still
it. So
make
how does that? I'm thinking, how does that work
So
then?
the way, if the charity owns the policy, then the tax benefit is during your lifetime. So if you're still making the premium payments, you can get up to 49% of that back through donation tax credit, depending on how much you give and the province you're in, and that will help reduce the cost of those premiums. So you're getting that tax benefit now during your lifetime.
But the charity, they don't have to make the payments, do they?
They don't have to. It would look at the charity's donor policy, gift acceptance policy. So if they could take over the payments, if that would help. If you decide you can't make those payments anymore, then if there's cash value built up in the policy, so like an investment portion of it, if you've had that policy for a long time, that can help to pay the payments, or the charity could, if they're willing to, pay the payments as well.
Yeah. Because maybe I'm starting to, and I do that, and I make my payments for a couple of years, and then I'm saying, oh boy, maybe I don't want to make those payments anymore. Is there any other options to that?
There are options to, generally people pay monthly, but you can pay annually. You can do different pay periods of a policy. So depending on your cash flows, you can do a one and done, one-time payment to a premium and have the charity take over and its beneficiary and owner, and they will get
they're done.
They're done. You can do 5, 10, 20 years. It depends on how much you want to pay in premiums and your timeline. So
Right.
what's comfortable for your cash flows.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I was thinking, okay, I'll do that, and then, but if I'm still making monthly payments, well then who makes that? But that's the discussion that you have,
Yes.
right, with your financial advisor, your insurance, person or whatever, and decide what's kind of the best. But that is irrevocable. Like, I mean, once that's done,
one and done.
You're done,
You're
right?
tied in. So because the charity really loves that guarantee that they are going to get at some point that benefit. They're going to get the death benefit and any cash value grown in the policies.
And of course, it would have to be a registered charity again.
Registered charity.
Once again. So I guess it would depend on too. And we talked about this, I always refer to other episodes, but having you as the financial advisor or the insurance, but then you also maybe have the lawyer, you also have your family, whatever, but it's a team, right?
It's a team, and you want to make sure all the people, it's comprehensive planning. You're not just looking at it from one lens. You want to see the whole big picture of the impact on your estate plan, on your beneficiaries. You want to know that the lifetime cash flows meet that goal. And the Canadian Association of Gift Planners actually have a guide on their website or through your advisor. You can get this guide that tells you the questions to ask yourself, your advisor, and make sure that you're able to continue with the wishes and the goals. So
that was C, and I wrote this down, CAGP?
CAG, Canadian Association of Gift Planners.
Okay, so you can go on their website and they have the standards of...
The guide of the questions to ask, to make sure you're fully informed. I believe in educated decisions, so you want to make sure you're fully informed of the impacts and the tax consequences, and make sure it's preferential to you.
Yeah, because I would think that, even, I mean, your family is one conversation, whatever. But I mean, the lawyers wouldn't, with all due respect to their expertise, maybe don't have the same thought processes as a financial advisor in the tax. But then on the other, with all due respect, over to the lawyers again, and that, working together to try and get the best for your client.
That's right. That's right. There's a full comprehensive living and estate plan. So.
Right. And so how many people, do you have lots of people that switch it from, okay, I've got, and I'm thinking myself here personally, I mean, I have a life insurance policy that I'm going, you know what, life is okay for me. And even if I did pass away, maybe there'd be a charity that would be way more, it would be useful.
Yes. And
they'd be happy to receive that. Are there a lot of people that do it? Or do we need more people to do it?
We need more people to do it, yeah. Right. I think a lot of people aren't aware. Most people are used to giving cash donations, and that's the simplest way, but this isn't that complicated. If you do it right, it can be a good strategy for you. Right.
And I think that, once again, if you do it, depending on where we're sitting in, I'm getting more experienced in life here, so as you get there, your situations change, and depending how your situation is, you could be more willing and being more able to, more options.
Yes, I think all of us during our lifetime at some point or another want to know how we can leave a legacy and what our legacy will be. So that's the question I ask my client. What do you want your legacy to be? And there's the concept of, if you don't have children, making this your charity child. There's, who do you want to pay taxes or not pay taxes? There's ways of making it more tax efficient. So
I like that, charity.
The reason we give isn't because of the taxes. It's because of the affiliation with the cause that is close to your heart.
For sure. Yeah. And we've talked about that, and I keep referring to that. But when we do volunteer work and we volunteer at a certain organization, that lots of times that relationship becomes more than that, and then there's opportunities for you to give and see how it can work out and benefit. And certainly it isn't the goal, like, oh, I'm going to get a tax benefit, but it sure helps.
It helps.
If it, if the case may be. So I'm just wondering, I mean, I don't know, have we hit everything that we need to do, or is there more that we definitely need people? I mean, we need people to get life insurance policies.
Well, it could be an existing policy that you have no use for anymore. It could be a new policy that you apply for. Think of the revocable versus irrevocable. What do you want the tax receipt for a big tax payable at the estate level, or do you need the tax benefit now? So lots of things to consider when you're choosing the right policy for you.
So when you have, you're a financial advisor, but you do insurance, like, do you suggest, hey, you know, to your clients, I mean, there must be lots of different options, but do you say, oh, do you have a life insurance policy? And have you ever thought of?
If they have a large tax bill, you know, is a charity important to you? Is there a charity that is close to your heart? Is there some charity or organization or someone somewhere in your community that you want to make an impact? Then we start talking about how they can structure.
And I think when we talk to people, their first is their family. It always is. I want to make sure my family's taken care of.
Yes.
And they don't sometimes realize that a 5%, I mean, you can go 10%, you can go 20%, but a 5% gift goes a long way, and that's not, your family's not suffering, that there's still.
Yes.
But talking to your family too.
Talk to your family, absolutely. Make sure there's no surprises. Even without an insurance policy, look at the numbers before and after and how it might not only make a small difference to your kids or your family, but make a big difference to the charity.
Yeah. And do you talk to one, or are there times you suggest maybe we need your family here? Or do you like to just talk to the
Definitely
original?
open it up to conversations for sure. You don't want surprises. You want to involve the family as much as possible.
Yeah. And you know, when you talk about, that is one of the hardest conversations to have.
It is.
Because nobody wants to face that. Nobody wants to talk about death.
Doing a will or
absolutely.
It's peace of mind. I've seen it where people do not have wills and the impacts. So it's really peace of mind to have that will, to have all your beneficiaries set up for just peace of mind for the family.
Well, on both sides.
Yes.
People that know they can do what they want, and then the family to know that, boy, you know, this is going to be a good thing, and we don't have to deal with this when we're in our grieving possibilities.
Yes, exactly.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, Christy, how do they do that?
Reach
if
me?
they want any more information?
Sure. ChristyKelly.ca is my address, or IG Wealth. Phone number 519-386-0442. But yeah, reach out for a second opinion or talk to your advisors. I'm just happy to help you direct to a charity that means the most to you.
That's great. That's good. Oh, I better turn my page here if I'm not there. So a special thanks to our host charity, Chapman House, Grey Bruce Hospice, and to Christy Kelly for coming from IG Wealth and giving us that knowledge on the possibilities of life insurance and philanthropy. That concludes today's edition of Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers Television, Grey County, and I'm Denise Reid, and I thank you for listening in today and encourage you to come again next week, hoping that my co-host Fred's with me. And thank you for being a part of Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers Television, Grey County. There you go.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
This is a perfectly healthy child. What's unhealthy are birth alerts, a racist practice that may stop this Indigenous mother from going home with her newborn.